right, folks. Well, here it is. It is now released. The memo has been released. White House, Washington, February 2nd, 2018. The Honorable Devin Nunes, Chairman, House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, United States Capitol, Washington. Dear Mr. Chairman, on January 29, 2018, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, hereinafter the committee, voted to disclose publicly a memorandum containing a classified information provided to the committee in connection with its oversight activities. The memorandum, which is attached to this letter, in which you folks will be supplied to you on RTR Truth Media. As provided by Clause 11G, the Rule 10 of the House of Representatives, the committee has forwarded this memorandum to the President based upon its determination that the release of the memorandum would serve the public interest. The Constitution vests the President with the authority to protect national security secrets from disclosure. As the Supreme Court has recognized, it is the President's responsibility to classify, declassify, and control access to information bearing out on our intelligence sources and methods and national defense. See Department of Navy v. Egan, page 484, United States 518, pages 518, I'm sorry, 484 U.S., pages 518, 527, 1988 case. In order to facilitate appropriate congressional oversight, the executive branch may entrust classified information to the appropriate committees of Congress as has done in connection with the committee's oversight activities here. The executive branch does so on the assumption that the committee will responsibly protect such classified information consistent with the laws of the United States. The committee has now determined that the release of this memorandum would be appropriate. The executive branch across the administrations of both parties has worked to accommodate congressional requests to declassify specific materials in the public interest. Interesting. However, public release of classified information by unilateral action of the legislative branch is extremely rare and raises significant separation of powers concerns. Accordingly, the committee's request to release the memorandum is interpreted as a request for declassification pursuant to the President's authority. The President understands that the protection of our national security represents his highest obligation. Accordingly, he has directed lawyers and the national security staff to assess the declassification request consistent and established standards governing the handling of classified information, including those under Section 3.1D, Executive Order 13526. Those standards permit declassification when the public interest in disclosure outweighs any need to protect the information. The White House review process also included input from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Department of Justice. Consistent with this review and these standards, the President has determined that declassification of the memorandum is appropriate. Based upon this assessment, in light of the significant public interest to the memorandum, the President has authorized the declassification of the memorandum. To be clear, the memorandum reflects the judgments of his congressional authors. The President understands that oversight concerning matters related to the memorandum may be continuing. Though the circumstances leading to the declassification through this process are extraordinary, the executive branch stands ready to work with Congress to accommodate oversight requests consistent with the applicable standards and processes, including the need to protect intelligence sources and methods. Sincerely, Donald F. McGahn II, Counsel to the President. Carbon copied is the Honorable Paul Ryan and the Honorable Adam Schiff. Unclassified. To HPSCI majority members, from HPSCI majority staff. Subject: Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, abuses at the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Just a shocking surprise there, eh? Purpose: This memorandum provides members an update on significant facts related to the committee's ongoing investigation in the Department of Justice, DOJ, and Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and their use of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, during the 2016 presidential election cycle. Our findings, which are detailed below: 1. Raised concerns with the legitimacy and the legality of certain DOJ and FBI interactions with Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, FISC, and 2. Represent a troubling breakdown of legal processes established to protect the American people from abuses related to the FISA process. I can think of other instances of DOJ and FBI processes as of late that have put a lot of political prisoners in jail through abuse of their rules and procedures and the law. Just saying. Investigation update: On October 21st, 2016, DOJ and FBI sought and received FISA probable cause order not under Title VII, authorizing electronic surveillance on Carter Page from the FISC. Page is a United States citizen who served as a volunteer advisor to the Trump presidential campaign. Consistent with requirements under FISA, the application had to be first certified by the Director or Deputy Director of the FBI. It is then required the approval of the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, DAG, or the Senate-confirmed Assistant Attorney General for National Security Division. The FBI and DOJ obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals from the FISC, as required by Statute 50 U.S.C. 1805 D1. A FISA order, an American citizen must be renewed by the FISC every 90 days, and each renewal requires a separate finding of probable cause. Then Director James Comey signed 3 FISA applications in question on behalf of the FBI, and Deputy Director Andrew McCabe signed 1. Then DAJ Sally Yates, then Acting DAJ Dana Buente, and DAG Rod Rosenstein each signed 1 or more FISA applications on behalf of DOJ. Due to the sensitive nature of foreign intelligence activity, FISA submissions, including renewals before the FISC, are classified. As such, the public's confidence in the integrity of the FISA process depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, particularly as it relates to the surveillance of American citizens. Let that just sink in for a second, folks. Who's watching the watchers? The court is. And why aren't many of these people across the nation that violate the law on behalf of the federal government ever charged? Many of them just go with Brady violations, with willful withholding of exculpatory evidence, with manufacturing evidence, with destruction of evidence. This was done against Trump. When it's done against you or me, oh, they get promoted. Yeah, that's what's going to happen to them. Yeah. Anyway, however, the FISC's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, which is reinforced by 90-day renewable of surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production to the court of all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA application that is known by the government. In the case of Carter Page, the government had at least 4 independent opportunities before FISC to accurately provide an accounting of the relevant facts. However, our findings indicate that, as described below, material and relevant information was omitted. 1. The dossier compiled by Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier, on behalf of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, and the Hillary Clinton campaign, formed an essential part of the Carter Page FISA application. Steele was a longtime FBI source who was paid over $160,000 by the DNC and the Clinton campaign via the law firm Perkins Cole and research firm Fusion GPS to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump's ties to Russia. Well, gee, I wonder what happens when you financially incentivize somebody to find information on somebody that doesn't exist. Just saying. Another point, case of order. Anyway, 1A. Neither the initial application in October 2016 or any of the renewals, disclosure, reference the role of the DNC, Clinton campaign, or any party campaign in funding Steele's efforts, even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were then known to senior DOJ and FBI officials. They knew that this was a political witch hunt. 1B. The initial FISA application notes Steele was working for a named U.S. person, but does not name Fusion GPS and Principal Glenn Simpson, who is paid by U.S. law from Perkins Cole representing the DNC, even though it was known by DOJ at the time that political actors were involved with the Steele dossier. The application does not mention Steele was ultimately working on behalf and paid for the DNC and Clinton campaign, or that the FBI had separately authorized payment to Steele for the same information. He's double paid. How lovely. How wonderfully lovely. Not only does the DNC and Clinton pay him off through a law firm, but the federal government pays him with taxpayer money too. Y'all should be just loving that part. Okay, now to number 2. The Carter Page FISA application also cited extensively in September 23, 2016, a Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff, which focuses, that's just not the irony in that, never mind, which focuses on Page's July 2016 to Moscow. This article does not corroborate the Steele dossier because it is derived from information leaked by Steele himself to Yahoo News. Fake news! Can anybody say fake news? The Page FISA application incorrectly assesses that Steele did not directly provide information to Yahoo News. This is a lie. Steele has admitted in British court filings that he met with Yahoo News and several other outlets in September 2016 at the direction of Fusion GPS, who's being paid by the DNC and Hillary Clinton. Perkins Cole was aware of Steele's initial media contacts because they hosted at least one meeting at Washington, D.C. in 2016 with Steele and Fusion GPS where this matter was discussed. 2A. Steele was suspended and then terminated as FBI source for what the FBI defines as the most serious of violations, an unauthorized disclosure to the media of his relationship with the FBI in an October 30th, 2016 Mother Jones article by David Korn. Yeah, they didn't like that bruised eye. Disclosed the fact that he's double paid. They knew they knew this was going to come. Steele should have been terminated for his previous undisclosed contacts with Yahoo and other outlets in September before the Page application was submitted to the FISA in October. But Steele improperly concealed from and lied to the FBI about these contacts. Oh, how lovely. To be. To be or not to be. Steele's numerous encounters with the media violated the cardinal rule of source handling, maintaining confidentiality, which it's kind of funny how judges like to force people to give up their sources, but that's a cardinal rule of source handling to the government. Demonstrated that Steele had become a less than reliable source for the FBI. Somebody give me a no, I'm not going to say that out loud. Really? All right, number 3. Before or after Steele was terminated as a source, he maintained contact with DOJ via then Associate Deputy Director General Bruce Orr, a senior DOJ official who worked closely with the Deputy Attorneys General Yates and later Rosenstein. Shortly after the election, the FBI began interviewing Orr, documenting his communications with Steele. For example, in September 2016, Steele admitted to Orr his feelings against then-candidate Trump, when Steele said he was desperate, quote, was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president, unquote. The clear evidence of Steele's bias was recorded by Orr at the time and subsequently in the official FBI files, but was not reflected in any page of the FISA applications. Willful withholding of evidence. Wow. Where have I heard that before? 3A. During this same time period, Orr's wife was employed by Fusion GPS to assist in the cultivation of opposition research on Trump. Orr later provided the FBI with all of his wife's opposition research, paid for by the DNC and Clinton campaign via Fusion GPS. Orr's relationship with Steele and Fusion GPS was inexplicably concealed from the FISC. Wow. Well, no big surprise there. 4. According to the head of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, Assistant Director Bill Priestap, corroboration of the Steele dossier was in its infancy at the time of the initial Page FISA application. After Steele was terminated, a source of validation report conducted by an independent unit within the FBI. How can they be independent? But that's good. I mean, it's something. An independent unit within the FBI assessed Steele's reporting as only minimally corroborated, which means it's weak. Yet in early January 2017, Director Comey briefed President-elect Trump on a summary of the Steele dossier, even though it was, according to his June 27 testimony, salacious and unverified. That's what that means, by when they say, it's in its infancy and minimally corroborated. The actual real words for that are salacious and unverified when you want to keep your ass out of a grinder. Anyway, while the FISA application relied on Steele's past record of credible reporting on other unrelated matters, maybe ones that more fell in line with his ideology, it ignored or concealed his anti-Trump financial and ideological motivations. Furthermore, Deputy Director McCabe testified before the committee in December 2017 that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FISC without the Steele dossier information based on fake news. Okay, I added that part. Number 5, the Page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos. But there is no evidence of any cooperation or conspiracy between Page and Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos information triggered the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late July 2016 by FBI agent Pete Strzok. Yeah. Strzok was reassigned to the special counsel's office to FBI Human Resources for improper text messages with his mistress. Yeah, I'm sure that was the reason, but, you know, seems to be like there's a whole lot of problems in the FBI these days, eh? You know, gunning down, murdering ranchers and stuff. You know, just saying, there's a whole lot of problems that need to be addressed here. Boy. Anyway, the Strzok Lisa Page text also reflect extensive discussions about the investigation, orchestrating leaks to the media, and include a meeting with Deputy Director McCabe to discuss an insurance policy against President Trump's election, unclassified, property of the United States House of Representatives. There you have it, folks. The memo is released, and my analysis is this. It's more than time to drain the swamp. It's time to get rid of the standing army. Let states do their jobs and start giving local control back to the people on a local basis where they have their local accountable representatives closest to them to involve themselves in their affairs and get back to the way the Constitution was originally maintained and was supposed to work. And obviously these three-letter gangs are creating the very news of sensationalism. They're gunning people down. They're violating the law. They're not being held accountable. What more has to be done? What more has to be done? What more needs to be exposed? It's systemic, and it's because of a bureaucracy that has grown far too big. Progressive Republicans as well as progressive liberals on both sides, both equally infected. We need to downsize the government big time. These people have far too much power, and there's not enough watchmen on the people's side in a private capacity. It's Tom Lacovara-Stewart, RTR Truth Media. The memo is released.